did not keep up with the Journey to Employment videos on a monthly basis. However, I did want to close with some great news. I finally was able to find employment. And I had a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share with you all on my journey to employment and how I was able to get employed and during such an interesting time in the job market. As you all know from my previous videos, I was laid off from my position as a consultant, and then I was able to find employment about 6 months exactly to the date and start my new role as an HR manager for a school district. And here are some of my thoughts from this process. And first and foremost is it really, what I'm trying to say is sacrifices are going to have to be made in order to find that next spot or that position. For example, I had to sell my house. I was living in Texas at the time, and I had to relocate, and that came with relocating to a different state, living with family again, and kind of starting over. And so where I'm getting at is that sacrifices sometimes have to be made in order to find what you're looking for or to find that next opportunity. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always go exactly the way you want it to, or whatever, but I just found that it's important to follow the instincts that you have, and if you feel like where you're at, it's just not gonna find the opportunity for you to follow your instincts and make some sacrifices and move or sell your house or do the things that are necessary, that aren't necessarily easy, but will get you that next opportunity. Second, it's all about really who you know and letting opportunities fall into place and being patient. I found that applying to so many different jobs online just never helped. I never got me any interviews, maybe one or two in the beginning, but I would apply to hundreds of places and not ever hear back. And I did hear back from a couple of companies, and that was Tesla and Panasonic. And I was scheduled for interviews. However, they closed all positions and were not they freezed hiring. So that was unfortunate. But those were the only kind of experiences I had with larger corporate companies. And I felt at that time that I just needed to stay more local or go into public sector, or again just reach out to people who I know and find opportunities that way, because nothing was really falling into place with me applying to places online. I noticed that the pipeline or the amount of applicants for each role, especially if it was hybrid, was the numbers were outrageous, and I just felt like there was no way my application would randomly stand out to a hiring manager. And it's really about who you know. And so an opportunity arose. My sister-in-law was is how does it work? She's related to the superintendent in the area that I moved to, and the superintendent actually asked if I was staying in the area, and asked just a little bit about my background. And funny enough, my background was actually the perfect match that they were looking for this role. And so that's how I ended up landing my HR manager role for that school district. And I know I put in hours and effort applying to different places, interviewing, and I interviewed for this spot as well, and I got it. And it just really is about making the sacrifice to go somewhere. And all about who you know, reaching out to people, being vulnerable, just letting people know that you're open for work opportunities, even though sometimes it can be a little bit humiliating. I found that that's what worked for me, and it might not work for everyone, and everyone has different stories to tell, but that was how mine is. And then last, just be patient and trust that everything will go well. It's almost like just keep the faith, and I really believe that. I was prompted to do things, and I thought that maybe they were crazy at the time, but I did it, and it led to this perfect opportunity for me. And so I think it really following your intuition, if you're spiritual, religious, or anyway, just listening to that inner voice, whatever that may be, and promptings, and following them, and trying to make the best decision for yourself, and making some sacrifices to get where you are. It's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, and I think we live in such a world of convenience that people expect things to just happen and fall into place in the way that they need. But if you look at the history of our country, if you look at the history of the world, people had to move, they had to make sacrifices to get where they were, and I'm very appreciative of that. And it motivated me that I need to do hard things as well, and not just stay in place and wait for something to happen, but take action. And so those are just a few of my thoughts on how to just navigate being unemployed and finding employment. I think that's what everyone else is probably saying at the moment as well. But my three were, again, be able to make some sacrifices in your life, and you'll have to do hard things sometimes to get where you need to go. Number two is really just utilizing the people you know. For me, it took I had a lot of pride, and I was embarrassed, and I thought I didn't need others' help, but this was a really good opportunity for me to do that, and it landed where ended up landing me where I was supposed to go. And besides applying to all these different places with people who didn't know who I even was, and so that really helped. And then last, really following your intuition, really following, again, for me, it was just following promptings and thoughts, and acting upon them and taking action. And that's really what got me where I am. And I can't believe it, honestly. It's just, you saw the videos in the beginning. I was in my home. Now I've sold that home. I'm thousands of miles away from the last place that I was living. I'm in a new place. I'm living with my parents again, and I'm starting over brand new. And it was super hard and difficult, but it was very much worth it. And I'm very hopeful for the future, and I know I am where I'm supposed to be. And that's all I can say. So if you have recently experienced being unemployed, or just got laid off or fired or anything, I feel you. I know what you've been through. It's hard, it's confusing, but don't let it overtake you. Don't let it dampen your hope, and don't let it make you become introverted into yourself and ashamed and depressed in any way. It's not you, it's the world that we live in, and sometimes we get the bad end of the stick on things. And anyway, I just hope this helps, and anyone who ever stumbles upon this, I really hope that you can understand that the self-sacrifice that it takes in order to really survive in this world and make a career and build a career, and it will work out for you as long as you really just keep the faith and take action and make sacrifices, and really just meet people and communicate. That was a big thing for me. So there's the 10-minute mark there, and I'm just very grateful for all of my experiences. I wouldn't take it back at all. Everything I had to do and go through, I look back and it was being laid off was the best thing that I needed. And I know going through it at the time it was hard to think of it that way, but now I look back and it was the best thing for me, and I'm in a better place now than I was 6 months ago. So take it, um, all of that with I guess a grain of salt if you don't believe in any of the things that I was saying. But anyway, I'm tired, but I just wanted to post this and hope you guys all have a good night.